Celluloid, and we're turning it into music and podcast for you.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of We Came from Celluloid, the podcast that sits at the nexus, the intersection, the spiritual core of music and film and dad bands. I say the last part only to push it and drive it into Brian, that he is a man of a certain age. How are we doing there, buddy?
Good. I'm excited to be going to see something that people say is one of the best of the year. In another couple hours, I'm going to go see an IMAX screening of One Battle After Another, the new Paul Thomas Anderson
Looks very good.
film. Previews looked good. I thought the second trailer really looked great. The first one, I'm just sort of going like, this is interesting. It's a confusing series of images. Yeah, I like plot-wise, came away with a little more of a sense of things. Plus, Sean Penn was in the second trailer, whereas his name was in the first, but I don't remember seeing him. But anyway, yeah, exciting storytellers that have already earned credibility with me. I don't really need to be sold that much on. Somebody says a new Paul Thomas Anderson movie is coming out, you sort of go, all right, I'll watch it. I'll see what happens.
I think I saw it when we watched that one absolutely atrocious film about the right wing guy in the town, masking and everything. I don't know.
Right, Eddington.
And it looked okay during that, but I've since seen some better trailers. It looks definitely more entertaining.
I am going to move this while we're talking, by the way, because it's telling me my internet connection is unstable, which I never see when we're in the room with the router. So, but you said you watched terrible films yesterday. What were these terrible films?
Well, as you know, every year I do my big horror binge, and technically this year I'm still catching up on like the write-ups on last year. So I end up rewatching one of the ones from last year so I could finish my write-up on it, which was Maxine, the number 3 in that trilogy. And I will say I liked that one better than either of the two prequels as it would be. It felt more like a movie. The other ones felt like art pieces, and like to me, they almost would have been better suited as just like, hey, a 5-minute moment in Maxine to kind of explain history. But they were ambitious. I will give it to them. They tried something. To whatever degree it worked or didn't work for me, it seemed like it was probably a lot of fun for them. I wouldn't know Kid Cudi has a huge dick if not. So I mean, there's at least that positive, I suppose. But no, that one was all right. My favorite parts in any year's horror binge are when I'm watching the Christmas horror theme ones. I do 3 of every year, and oh my god, dude! Like, I think people try to get away with using Christmas as a setting, and it's, to me, that makes the cheapest and shittiest of horror Christmas movies. Like, and if you do them right, my god, they're so great. I watched one I watch every year. That's like, I can't remember the name of it offhand, but like the kid in the babysitter movie takes place during Christmas, and it's absolutely amazing. Like, I think they gave that one of the few 10 out of 10s I've given for my reviews. But I watched Christmas Bloody Christmas. I think it's like a year or two old, and just absolute, like, for how hard I had to like go and find a way to watch the movie, way not worth the effort. The only thing that makes it intolerable is that Jonah Ray gets killed in the first 10 minutes of it, and that makes me a little happy to watch. outside of that, it's like they wasted a ton of time on the thinnest of premises, and then like they end it terribly. Like they, it's the movie is about a they give you the story in like a few news pieces you hear in the background or whatever on TV in it when they say a bunch of robotic Santas are going to be in your mall this Christmas, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a news saying, oh, well, so some of these Santas are like reverting to the military technology that they're based off of. And that's how they set up what becomes killer robot Santa destroying people. But like, they never give it a reason. Like, how does he discern who to kill? He just sees people and then goes to kill them. It's very flimsy in all of that. Like, there's no like, hey, his programming was this, so these are the kinds of people he's looking for. It's literally he kills everybody that he sees. But it's not even like he hunts people down too. Like once he's seen them, like now that he knows they exist, he won't stop until they're dead. Like there's like 5 fake out kills on like the robot, and it just keeps coming back, coming back in the dumbest ways possible. There's far better ways to kill them than any of the stupid ways they tried. And then they just end the movie in like a normal way, as opposed to like, wait a minute, if this guy came back, we were hearing in a news, theoretically, like the Christmas Day, every little town in America that had one of these is now destroyed based on what we saw here. So it's like there should be like some reference to that. Like if it really was smart, they would have done like as the credits roll, have that, more news briefings popping up from around the country, that kind of thing, explaining what's going on.
Well, it makes me wonder about like on the one hand, I was thinking as you were describing that about low budget filmmaking in general and the idea that you even still like seek things out like that. Because, like, to me, as a general rule, if you have to go really looking hard, especially for a new movie, it's because it had no financing and had no whatever. And on the one hand, the technology certainly exists for independent filmmaking communities. Like my son's been involved in a couple independent film projects. He's made independent film projects. I really enjoy like the movie he made, the movie he was in, but in absence of a distribution model, it's interesting because like music on the one hand, or something like stand-up comedy, there's this question of like how many authors does it take to get something done, right? And being a novelist, you are a singular writer. Being a stand-up comedian, you are a singular writer. When you're in a band, you could be a solo singer-songwriter, you could be a duo, a trio, a quartet, you know what I mean? Whatever. But filmmaking, in order to really be done well, really does require, in my mind at least, all these departments firing on all cylinders and stuff like that. And then I was thinking, what's the exception to that rule, if I can think of it, right? Is there truly a time where somebody has, with just an iPhone and true like lack of professional gear, where the performances, where the storytelling has overcome the lack of professionalism? As I'm saying that, I wasn't thinking of it earlier, but Clerks does kind of come to mind, where it's not visually flashy, the actors are amateurish, and yet the dialogue was so funny that like people just liked it, you know what I mean? And it had legs.
Believe me, I'm no stranger to watching low budget bad movies, and sometimes they're even so bad they're good. Sometimes you'll see like, someone who just genuinely nailed something, and frankly, horror is one of those genres that's incredibly forgiving on a mediocre output, as long as you got a really cool idea.
Yeah, and maybe a good makeup artist, you know what I mean? Like I don't want
This was none of that. Special effects were terrible. Like the dialogue was beyond wooden and cut out. the people that existed as characters in this movie, like I, they're like the people that if you believed the world of what do you call it? It's I don't even know how to put it. It's just like nothing about it was real. Nothing felt real. Nothing felt honest. And you'd think like with a name like Jonah Ray attached, like then it would have at least something going on there. I mean, he's the dude from Nerdist. He has his own stuff. You know, he did the reboot of MSTK 3000. Like, so it's like you just assume. But if this honestly felt like one of his kids made a movie and said, "Hey, Dad, would you mind being in it?" And then made as many drunken sex jokes as they could until people started dying. It was just I'd hope for a little bit more out of it. That's
Fair
all.
enough. Yeah. I
Like I know that the last one on my list for this year is the last horror Christmas one I have is going to be absolutely fucking terrible, and I'm going into it knowing it's going to be horrible. But like I get the impression that's supposed to be part of its charm. It's called A Flattened Christmas, and like lots of dead roadkill coming back to life is what I the visual. So I expect terrible, like dead roadkill and like looking like furries, basically.
Yeah, like I could hear a poor demo quality recording of a song and still, for the sake of argument, get the full emotional value out of that song. I think that it is hard to, even if you have a wonderful story to tell, it's hard to do that without access to resources. Did you ever see Dr. Horrible's sing along blog?
Love it. It's great. It's classic.
That comes to my mind a lot because I remember coming out of that going, boy, in an age of long form storytelling, right? Because growing up, movies were everything to me. And long form storytelling to me started with things like HBO, with 6 Feet Under, with Sopranos, with these shows that had like a beginning and a middle and an end, but you got so much more time to get into character and just not be in such a rush. And suddenly going through the beginning, middle, and end of a Breaking Bad or a 6 Feet Under, um, I'd see a new movie and sometimes feel like, okay, tip of the cap to any movie that can like introduce me to a whole world, get me invested in that world, and then end their story. So even there, you're excluding the like franchise films and sequels and like all of that stuff where you come in with some degree of attachment even already to these people, right? That like, to me anymore, that feels like a real accomplishment when somebody can come in and win me over, now even that is hard to say because like the movie I'm going into tonight, it's obviously not part of a franchise, but I am invested in DiCaprio. I'm invested in Benicio del Toro. I'm invested in Sean Penn. I'm invested in Paul Thomas Anderson. I've been on the ride with those guys. Other than Sean Penn, he's a little older than me, right? But the other three names, I feel actually almost some kinship with because of like, I'll put it in a sappy way. We grew up together. And there's a different relationship when you're there, when an artist is just coming onto the scene. When the artist proves to have staying power, though, because not everybody does. When you were there from the beginning and you saw it and you loved them from the beginning, and not that the world is like just catching up on any of these people. I mean, DiCaprio, all of them kind of were immediately recognized as talented people, but there's something really cool about like, and frankly reassuring about seeing people go through the ebbs and flows and ages of their lives and still do great work. Selfishly, it makes me feel hopeful that as we enter these future decades of our lives, I just like having people to point to where you go, ooh, that guy's 50 and he just did something awesome. Ooh, over there, that guy's 60 and he just did something awesome. You know what I mean? So if I'm, 42 today, then does that mean I get 20 more years of creativity? Like, can I point to who's in their 70s that's still killing it, right? Like, Lars isn't a quote unquote like great drummer by, I don't know, by some standards, but he's a fucking metal drummer and he's got to be in his late 60s at this point, out there fucking seeking and destroying, Gives you hope, right?
I'll hold back my feelings on Lars. Well, it's even more interesting about it as we actually come off of a pretty big high. This past weekend we had a fun show. We were the only band that brought anybody. It was always fun to be that group when all the other bands played to just us and our friends. But it felt good getting on stage. Felt good having LaVonte back with us for a gig. Um, nobody felt that difference, probably more so than you. It is it's a little charming, Brian, just to see how excited and how energized your performance was given that just little personnel change.
That's interesting. It wasn't even so much in my mind in the moment, but yeah, we do have some fine chemistry for sure.
Well, it's always interesting when you play with people and then you see the little shifts around and like see how it does affect people. Because like I have different people I play with, and like the the level to which I'm able to go as a performer a lot of time is dictated by the people that I'm around because of how comfortable I'm feeling. Like if like I have a group of people I feel really strongly are gonna be able to hold their own and watch my back, I'm willing to be more daring and take more chances because if I fuck up, I know they've got things handled, so it's not gonna look as bad as it does. But that also like opens it up to like what if I nail it, like we're really pushing something next level that I wouldn't normally feel comfortable at even trying outside of a setting where you have that level of comfort with people. So was just definitely a palpable sensation on stage there. I everybody did talk to me at this show, which was a little different, but
Yeah, we got a lot of great feedback. It was interesting even to indeed what I was just talking about decades in the business. I Some of the things I'm about to mention are assumptions based on things I observed, right? But the band that was headlining that night, some things are facts, some things are assumptions. The facts are they were a band that was on tour, right? And had just released a new album. I heard him at one point reference being a cruise ship guitar player, right? And I talked to enough to that guy, the front man from that band, afterwards to go, okay, he's got gray hair or whatever. I'm guessing he's another maybe 15 years older than me. I'm not sure, right? But like he had like, Megadeth, Metallica, kind of shredder guitar chops. And so I'm crafting a narrative in my head, right, of a guy who's been a professional musician for a long time and this is his passion project and he's taken this passion project out on the road, right? And I hear him talk about them being on the radio charts, right? And I see, because I'm following them on Facebook as I would with any other band that we played. I see in the days afterwards, I see the posts that they'd made, like, last week or whatever, about their different positioning on the radio chart. And at risk of being really harsh to some strangers on the off chance they would ever hear this, my apologies, but like doesn't that strike you as a little bit naive? Like, but there's something again like that to me is really beautiful about that, but also heartbreaking to me in a way. It's both beautiful and heartbreaking to see somebody putting them that much of themselves out there, and yet at the same time somehow thinking like the bass player was referring to this tour as his big break. And I'm going, holy shit, do you believe that? Like, why? Because that guy said you were on the fucking radio charts? That's heartbreaking, but it's so beautiful. I'm not trying to be an asshole. It's just sort of like, it was so human and beautiful and sad. And like, I don't know, man. It was really something to me.
So to add to the strangeness of it, I don't know if did you talk to the drummer at all in the band?
The kid, yeah, a little bit. Sure.
And by the way, kid is the appropriate term. He is a high school student.
Oh my God.
Who is touring on the weekends. The white-haired guy that was like helping with load gear and stuff, that's his dad.
Okay.
So it's this guy and his kid and the kid's dad and a bass player all out on tour.
The kid is gaining valuable experience. Good for him. Good for fucking him.
Exactly.
Yes, he's
Absolutely.
winning right now. Yeah.
I think I'd be doing the same thing, Brian. Like, and maybe there's like a talk about it until it's a real element sort of thing when you talk about the radio charts and everything like that. Or maybe it's just because he's older than us. He's from an era that shit still mattered. You know, the bottom line is he's out there fucking just playing the music for who'll listen to it and trying to find that way. You know, in a world that frankly, it's hard to do that in anymore. Because like venues don't promote, they don't rely on you as a band to do everything, and you know, it's frustrating.
There's an expression, Nick, that I've thought of before for filmmakers and musicians, which is delusional self-belief. And I think sometimes that is the thing that separates the winners, the people who do succeed, oddly enough. I think that is required of you to have a delusional level of egocentric self-belief. And I just have, I don't know, like, I feel like my manners get in the way. I want to be so fucking polite to people, but that I don't want to walk around feeling like my shit is more important than other people's, even though I love our stuff. Like, I just can't get into the delusional self-belief in a way that almost holds me back, I think, from accomplishing shit, you know?
I guess the way that I always treat that particular element is that, you know what, you're right. I may not be the greatest and most talented thing out there. My aging has, you know, done a lot of things to my voice that I've had to learn how to cope with. But I will say that, you know, I try my damnedest to step out on stage and do the best show that I possibly can. I was super excited, like when on the third song you're like telling me to ease it back a little bit as far as like, you know, speed we're going through material, because I probably wouldn't have made it through that set. I would have had a heart attack about song 4. Because we were going at it pretty damn hard. And like I was definitely like putting everything I had into the music. But that's why always want the performance to be more. I want all the elements, the bells and the whistles. You're right. Going to watch another band play doesn't really do it for me either. That's why I don't go watch half my friends' bands play. Like, it usually is more exciting to me to stay home, watch a new movie, and fucking eat some pudding or something. I don't know, as opposed to like if someone actually went the extra mile and put on like the extra performance. So first thing I did when I came home was like start downloading some videos for some of the cobbled together stuff that I intend to really work with as far as getting like the stage show amped up. You know, I want to get us to a place where like, oh, we can't play gigs in most places because what we do requires that they have this amount of gear built into the theater for us to do it. Like, if you don't have the projectors in theater, we can't do it. We're not paying a roadie to set up a fucking stage every time we go someplace. So either we have it we can plug in and it's good to go, or we'll just have to find a different place.
Yeah, well, and even on that front, obviously, you and I have certainly talked about I do think that there is room to grow what we're doing. I think that an old school approach of taking something out on the road and touring with it is a great way to build a fan base, right? Even Vola, we've watched them in like 2 or 3 years of visiting the States. They're going crowd of 50, crowd of 150, crowd of 300, crowd of 500. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, what's funny is that though is like, how long have they been doing that even before that started happening?
yeah.
Like, I want you to think about this. When did Applause of a Distant Crowd even come out, Brian?
Well, they were doing it back home, certainly. Yeah.
20,
For it to even reach our ears.
28. That's a 2018 album.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, it's been 7 years, even like off the time that you're talking and remembering in there. It's like the delusional self belief is the thing that gets you through those years of things not happening. I mean, I've said it for years. It's how long can you do this and make it before shit happens? Like Oasis, oh, it looks like it happened overnight, but no, it was the 10 years of us going nowhere, like that you never saw because we weren't famous then. It's all the time that people forgets there that you go through as a band person that just kind of gets swallowed up to everybody else's vision. If you can get through all that to get to the good stuff, then yeah, I mean, you'll make it. But how deluded do you have to be to deal with a decade of people shitting on you essentially, and like not being given your due, not being given your credit, to eventually get to where people you?
Well, I also guess it's what that represents in terms of how committed you end up being, right? That like we're not applying ourselves to the cause with such ferocity and intensity that I personally ever would feel like I had room to even bitch about it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not shoving the boulder uphill, right, with such speed that I feel like I am somehow entitled to complain about anything. You know what I mean? Like we're yeah, moving at the pace we're moving. So
Well, I mean, there's a frustration because, like, to do that also for you and me requires 3 to 4 other people also, like, trying to operate at 10 with everything that they have to do for the project. And it's often not what we're really getting. You know, love all the guys that we play with, but, they're guys of a certain age, and this is like what they do to blow off steam on weekends. It's not completely dissimilar to, like, when I was in Carried by Six, like, the goals I thought we could have accomplished with that band outpaced what like these middle-aged dudes in their early 30s who now have wives and girlfriends, and this is just how they blow off steam on a Friday and occasional Saturday show. Like, whereas the music quality could have lived past that.
the lost episode of this very program, sir, so lost
It's not lost.
that we
It's
recorded it twice, right? And it still, to my knowledge, doesn't exist. And what I'm referring to is the concept of musical movie reviews, right? We you and I have some degree of control over a type of creative output and audience building. Because even on like the touring side, the right way to me to tour in the modern age, you should be doing some digital marketing. That in the same way that Alien Ant Farm's ads are absolutely hitting me, somebody somewhere knows that generally speaking, I'm the right audience. You know what I mean? I'm probably not going to go to that show, but generally speaking, I am the right target audience. And people that know how to do targeted ads, right? That's always been in the back of my mind too. And I know we've had these discussions. You and I have spent time as professional marketers for small businesses and all these tricks of the trade in that respect, where But the problem with music is that, like, that's not in and of itself how people buy music. But do people go online and do Google searches for movie reviews? Like, and could those lead people to discover just in general what we're doing? I think the musical movie review concept, plus, you know, it came up again recently too with Weird Al. He was just at Blossom a few weeks back. He's been in the general area. Nobody has ever tried to do what he did after he did it. And I'm not trying to do what he did. I only mean to say there's room for novelty songs, right? Even like some of the feedback I got the other night was somebody being like, oh, you guys write songs about movies? That's really cool. Like, he caught what you were saying between songs and picked up on it and was like, oh, that's a really interesting angle, right? And it is an interesting angle. And so we should be disciplined around whether it is doing an acoustic performance like you, me, and Levy did, or pulling Nolan to something like that. Let's keep music in the mix of what we're doing here. And I like I said before, the idea of trying to write a song spontaneously or have moments of inception happen on the fly. I want to try just something as an experiment. I'm going to blindly reach behind me right now, and I don't know what I'm going to grab. But what is in my hand is this copy of De Palma. As I zoom in closer, that's Rebecca Romaine from Femme Fatale. That's not jumping out at me. What about Carrie? What about Carrie with the covered in blood piece? Is Carrie overdone, or is Carrie ripe enough as a topic? What to me is maybe more interesting than the stuff that goes on at school is the stuff that happens with her and her mom in that movie, right? Like, the most heartbreaking fucking thing in that movie is the stuff with her and her mom.
Well, it's the what's designed in that, like, that's all the Stephen King's wife stuff, to what I understand. It's the real stuff. Like, that movie is about a girl having her first period. It just happens to be a whole bunch of supernatural elements attached to that. But that's the whole point. It's a girl whose body's doing shit she doesn't understand, and a horrible parent that's not helping the situation any. It's making it worse. Now, you throw on like all the stuff flying and people dying, like, that's like, if you could imagine the worst period ever, so bad that you actually managed to kill everyone around you, is essentially what that movie is. It's like, not only was this emotionally scarring to you as a human being, it got so bad that people around you died too.
So what's the hook around that notion of sheltering somebody from growing into adulthood? What is the fear of maturity in terms of a way in, you know?
In that particular movie, I guess her mom was screwed up, but there's a certain feeling, I imagine I haven't had to feel it yet. I'm imagining I got a couple years, but you're had it happen once. You're about to have it happen a second time here. That your kids age and they get older, and then they go on and have their own lives, and then they're not around all day anymore. They're not there to be in your world the way that you expect your world to be. And so, what does it mean going through that? Like, the loss hasn't happened yet, but the loss is coming of this thing that's been there for as long as you can remember. Like, your whole life works in a certain way because they're there the way they are. And what happens when like, you've worked into, like, say, a horribly what's codependent situation in Carrie, that, like, can you let that person go away? Like, I would be curious to see how it's Stephen King, so I know he didn't, but how deep into, like, the mental stuff they actually went with Carrie's mother. Like, did she have guilt about what she was doing to her?
Yeah, how much of a internal perspective did they give her? But just for the sake of even proving the point I started with, the phrase that came into my mind is the blood it drips, the hair is thick, and you're walking away from me, right? The blood it drips, the hairs are thick, and you're walking away from me, right? There's longing in there of watching somebody walk away. But as we like to do, you take something that has a feeling of sweetness and even romance, and we're trying to add something creepy underneath it, right?
So how about this? I mean, the next two lines I immediately get out of that is, "You know too much, we know too much," pointing out what kind of strange relationship they might actually have. Is it just parent daughter? You know, what is that? How fucked up is this person? You know, like, that's where my head is like, you know too much, we know too much, and I can't bear to let you go.
And then I was thinking, extending, like, I'm taking it to the neighbors. They're offering me something like, I was thinking about how that is one of the ways we meet the mom, is she's going like door to door with her like bullshit. You know what I mean? So it's another example of liking to take something that is literal in the context of thinking about the film Carrie, but trying to pull it in lyrically in a way that lets a listener apply other things to it, or even as we continue to develop it, to apply other things to it. So inside that literal moment of saying I'm taking it to the neighbors, um and asking them for their change. You know what I mean? That's literal in terms of coin change. She's asking for donations, but change can mean fucking change, as well. Taking it to the neighbors, asking them for their change.
I want to reiterate once again why I love horror movies so much, because once again, that is a story about a girl having her first period, being scared and fucking confused. And they manage to tell that story in such a way that they make us they take the consequences, and they make the consequences and the stakes higher. Like, they've managed to make a very compelling, ter- ter- terrifying movie. I mean, back in the 70s, it didn't get much scarier than that. About something that's a very real world thing that every girl's gonna go through at some point in life, for the most part. Like, they've made, and the only place that's you can do that in such a great way is the horror movie. And that's why I guess horror movies all too often let me down. They slasher movies pushed out all of the good thinky horror movies in a lot of ways. Yeah, it's a little frustrating.
Well, and there's something, I guess, to the heartbreaking thing to try to articulate it at the center of that movie, too, is about watching a child try to please a parent, no matter how fucking awful that parent is. The idea that they still are just so pure with that arm reach out, asking for that love, asking for that, to be what you need and want them to be.
Sissy Spacek ever get will Sissy Spacek ever get what she deserves out of that role, do you think?
No, no, but she approaches it with such sweetness. I mean, and then you see that with, like, what her crush on the little poet kid Tommy Ross, right? And her just, speaking up in the classroom, and I don't know, like, she's a really sweet kid in that movie. And I was thinking of another phrase. I was thinking of how, like, in the same 2-minute stretch, the principal can't pronounce her name correctly. He keeps calling her Cassie until she loses it and like flips the ashtray over. And then she's walking home, and that little fuckface kid is riding his bike and going, "Creepy Carrie, creepy Carrie, creepy Carrie." You know, and I was thinking, the big man doesn't know my name, uh, while the little man screams and taunts me, you know? That's all. Anyway, it's not that we have to write a Carrie song. I'm just talking about, again, like, I love the idea of the creative exercise, right?
All right. Well, thank you if you've hung out with us this long. You should, because we're interesting and fun guys who have very quirky, strange look at the world. And you should go and listen to Puma Thurman. I'm really excited. We had a great show. It was probably the most poppy show that we've ever performed, which is entertaining and interesting to me in a very different way. Like, we played all of the stuff that's like, oh, good old fashioned songs, not like trying to be heavy in any way. Like, it's just they're fun major keyed songs for some reason. Um, but we got that. We're still waiting on a final version of Stay Gold Pony Boy to come out, and we can actually start promoting online like we were talking about. You know, sometimes you just gotta wait till you have the actual tools in hand, and like the waiting and pedaling in place part gets to be a little bit annoying. But anyways, thanks. Like I said, thanks for hanging out with us. We shall return.